We're joined by our senior counsel for global affairs, former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo. And before we get into some of the international issues, Secretary Pompeo, this is kind of like the day people have been waiting for to see Kamala Harris back out in the public. She's going to release her economic agenda today in North Carolina, and they've already kind of leaked out these price controls that are expected to be part of the package. And listen, I get why people might hear that and think, well, we kind of need something like that right now because of inflation. But this is not about tackling inflation. This is about dictating to grocers how much they can charge for groceries, even though they're having to purchase them at inflated prices as well. It's a lot more, to me, it sounds a lot more like communism. I want your thoughts on it.
We've been down this path. We actually know what the Harris economy will look like. It's the one we're living through now, the one that so many families are suffering under. When I saw them begin to return to price controls, I remember, Jordan, back when we've done this before, when the Carter administration tried to do it. It sounds elegant. Thou shalt sell product X for no more than price Y. But you and I both know it's not how capitalism works. It's not what we delivered for 4 years in the Trump administration. When you set those prices, you put in place a massive centralized bureaucracy to decide what is a fair price. It won't be fair to someone along the way. And what you'll end up seeing is massive inflation that will result from these price controls, because all of a sudden suppliers will restrict their output. And the next thing you know, store shelves are empty. You can't find the product that you're looking for. And frankly, everything will end up being far more expensive. It always sounds elegant to think government will direct something, but we all know, those of us who come from places like Kansas and simple places, we all know that when the government gets involved, the cost of something's going to get far worse.
I mean, they're claiming too, Joe Biden's been this transformative and very successful president, but we're seeing this pivot by Harris, starting, we've seen it all week in the last 20 days, but I think the pivot's really starting today and then leading into their convention next week, whether it's kind of adopting the same of, no taxes on tips and throwing that out there as like that was their idea, or telling people we're going to bring down the price of groceries, but they're not telling people we're going to do that by fixing inflation. In fact, I mean, it's like the Biden team and now the Harris team is telling America, and she's going to start with this today, they're giving up on trying to fix inflation. So they think the only way they can bring down prices is by the government mandating what the grocer can actually set the prices for, what the farmer, I guess, can sell to the grocer for too. I mean, it affects the whole chain. And like you said, they decide to hold back, not produce as much, or wait because they know the sales will be lower, and they've got to be able to make money to continue to grow these vegetables and put these products out.
Jordan, long before I entered politics, I ran a small business. If the government had told me what I could sell the product for, I'd try to figure out how to do it successfully and still make money and take care of my employees and my community and all the things that every small business all across America does. But man, it will become incredibly difficult. I suspect they don't think they can get this passed anyway. So this is much like student loan forgiveness. This is much like this fantasy about no taxes on tips. These are things that they are just grasping at straws, trying to disconnect from the last 4 years. Sadly, I can't believe they're doing that as a political matter, but I'm convinced that the American people will see straight through this, Jordan. They're going to see that the place they find themselves today is in some ways we're being pitched the fourth term of Barack Obama, and those weren't times that the American people remember fondly. Healthcare prices went up with the Affordable Care Act. Regulations went up for every agriculture producer all across America, and costs for every family, whether it was your mortgage or rent or groceries, the things that really matter to ordinary families all across the country. Their wages didn't go up to match them, and so they were worse off than they were under President Trump. I'm convinced this effort will fail, but man, they are trying to obfuscate her role in the last 4 years.